Well, in neighboring Kano State, away from Kaduna, the Commissioner of Police there, Mr. Ibrahim Idris, has described the voting process in the state as peaceful. Mr. Idris, who was on tour of the polling units in the state, praised the voters for their orderly conduct during the elections. All right, we'll just have those visuals just roll in much later if we have them.
Okay, let me bring it back to our panel of analysts. Let's get your response on this. I mean, I think I said time and again that going to election or where you're supposed to vote and demanding for materials is wrong. But we have people who consistently do that. And like they say, no voter should go and request to see one material or the other before you cast your ballot. But people, maybe from experience, think otherwise. So that's why sometimes you see some of these cases. So how do we even handle this kind of things? Because many of them are aggrieved, and I'm not sure how many are thinking about taking the process further, maybe to the tribunal. They're resorting to sometimes self-help, as we've seen in some of these cases here. What's the way out of this?
I believe we should be guided by the Electoral Act. The responsibility of a voter stops at exercising civil responsibility and duty of voting. You go to the polling unit, make available your voters register, permanent voters card. It will be verified to confirm that you are registered for that particular unit. You accredit yourself, you vote, and then if you decide to, you stay within the fringes of the polling unit to monitor your voting and the counting of the ballot. Other than that, it is totally anachronistic. It is not in the view of the Electoral Act that a voter should turn himself to a supervisor of elections. Because you keep hearing about election materials are compromised, result sheets are fake. Before you determine that there's a fake material, you must have the original. For me to be able to know that this is fake, that means I know what the original is. So which means that the voter himself has the original in his custody to be able to determine that the one that is being shown to him
What
is
did they
fake.
say the one we used for the presidential election was different from the one
There's
that
no basis for such, Chamberlain, because there will be no end to it. And in fact, the governor of Rivers State started this joke March 28 when he was saying that he was demanding for the election result sheet. That's not part of our electoral system. These are sensitive materials that ought to be in custody of the INEC officials. Now, if you have any reason to believe that the election will be compromised, there are remedies available within the Electoral Act.
Let's face it. Let's face it.
Yes.
This will continue unabated for as long as we have a manualized system of going to cast our votes and elect new people into position. What is the remedy to this? Let me start with you, GT.
You know, I'm a lawyer, and I know that there's something called the rule of law. I know that conduct of elections is governed by the Electoral Act. I also know that we have a ground norm called the Constitution. Now, we are all expected to conform to the law, both the candidates, the government, and the citizens. But in an election season, when the court, for example, makes pronouncement, don't deploy soldiers, and you defy that and deploy soldiers. In an election season in which materials for elections, as we've been told, are not made available, they are snatched, there is gun violence, people are beaten up. You can imagine that citizens who ordinarily just have to cast their votes and then trust that the system will do justice to them, electoral justice to them, and that their votes will count, will be improvising, and then proactively will say that they want to defend their vote. It's in this crime that people say, stand there and defend your vote. Elsewhere, if our electoral system is so sure and foolproof that once people vote, that the results will count, their vote will count, and that the accurate result will come out. Nobody will say that I want to go somewhere and say, I want to defend my vote. Why
So is that justified?
So what I'm
their
saying
actions?
is justified.
It's justified?
Yes, that's the point I'm making. Look, under the regulations, and we can take this together. When a polling officer gets to a polling station, before the election process starts, the materials, including ballot papers and all that, that are brought there, the agents are asked to come forward. And in a transparent manner, those things are shown to them that these have not been pre-thumb printed or pre-filled in terms of result sheet. But along the line, after the election, after voting, you then have a situation whereby the remaining ballot papers are counted, their books, their procedures are counted, entered in, and then the ones that are not used are cancelled right there before sorting will start, and then counting will start. And then you enter the results there. And don't forget, before you start entering the results, once counted, will be declared there. There is declaration of result there at the polling station. So if you have a situation whereby you get to a polling station, there are no result sheets, and voting takes place, for example, and it's counted, and there is allegation that result sheets that are not there are elsewhere and they are being filled in. So what do you expect the citizens to say?
Let's get everyone's response on that.
I can't imagine that voters will be inspired or encouraged to monitor result sheets in order to ensure its authenticity, because there will be no end to such chaos. And this is I guess that the reason for monitoring election, for monitoring the vote, the counting, is to be able to have facts. If, for instance, the expectations of the result does not match with what actually takes place there, to have facts that you can channel for seeking a redress, either for cancellation or for taking decisions that will enable you challenge what is against what you expected. Now, if you get to a polling unit and there are no result sheets and elections are counted, you ask I guess what we will do through the agents of the political party is to ask the reasons why the result sheets are not there. If you can't get one, you can improvise. In other words, you can produce any document by which people will enter those results, agents will sign, the electoral officers will sign to authenticate that that is actually the outcome of what happened there. And the reason why I say this
that's dicey, though, if you have to do that, because they can still get those handy and escape with it. We've seen pockets of that already, snatching of ballot boxes. They can as well snatch the record sheets.
They can snatch the original one
too.
too.
So what do we do then in this situation so that we don't even have to go that route?
No, it is very clear that the security agencies who are paid to monitor electoral materials and guide them should exercise their duty diligently to ensure that before the commencement of elections, the materials are inspected. Inspected by INEC officials, inspected by party agents, inspected by even election observers.
Is that going to work?
And no, but there's no other choice to ensure that those things are authentic and are available. Having done that, whether people come subsequently to manipulate the system and we want to resist them, the choice of those of us who want to participate in the election as electorate will not be to take the law into our hands to be able to provide alternatives. Otherwise, there will be no end to the skirmishes and the struggles. So I think our duty is to ensure that those materials are available. But to determine the power of electorate to supervise those materials to know whether they are compromised or whether they are authentic, it can't come under electoral
So
regime.
let me just quickly say this. There is a provision of the Electoral Act that says that voting should take place and counting should take place in the full glare of the public. Is there in the Electoral Act?
Oh, surely.
So when the IGP decreed, before it was countermanded by the INEC chairman, that your duty is just to vote and go home.
I think he said that what he meant was there are certain things you could not do within 300 meters.
That was a revision. That was the revision later. I listened to him at the press conference. And I was talking about loitering and all that. And people were laughing, right? The point I'm making is that when he said that, the critical question that followed that was, if the electoral says that this be done in the public, and we all repeat too often this free, fair, credible, transparent, these adjectives have implications. Transparent to whom? to the election observer and the policemen that are there and the party agents
So
or the ordinary citizens. So I'm insisting that the participation of the public in election as electorate is guaranteed by law.
Okay, at what point does the word substantial compliance come in?
It's at the point of election petition. That's section 139.
So even during that process, you cannot say...
And that's the problem. You see, when you manipulate electoral process, I just say, let's just get result first. We'll go and fight it out in the tribunal, right? And section 139 then provides that once there is substantial compliance, when it appears to the tribunal there is substantial compliance, then there will be no reason to invalidate the outcome of that election. Okay. I'm saying that that is a standard that is very high to meet because it is a matter of evidence. As is rightly pointed out, you need to gather facts, you need to gather evidence and all that to present before a tribunal, so that it can then appear to the tribunal that there has been non-substantial compliance. Okay. To then invite the tribunal to nullify the election. But the point I'm making, finally, is that, look, the Electoral Act has fine provisions. But when you have the reality that in an election there is gun invasion, gun violence, and the electorate is then expected to scamper and then go away and allow politicians to go and then be defending or assailing the result of the election, I'm saying that the people is left out.
Right. You have to hold your thoughts for a minute. We need to go to break, but we'll return and continue our focus as we review and look ahead of some of the results and elections going on today. Join us again.